Well, hello, and thank you for joining me for another Alex on Tech and iTWireTV interview. I'm joined today by Gerhard Schweinitz. He's the Head of Talent at Contino. Welcome to the program.
Thanks for having me.
Well, Gerhard, I always like to start at the beginning and just ask you to please tell us about Contino and the products and services that you offer to the market in 2021.
We're a digital transformation consultancy.
Mhm.
We help very large enterprises on their digital journeys, whether that be helping them out with their cloud implementations across AWS, GCP, or Azure, helping them with software builds, new greenfield or brownfield. We help them out with leveraging their data, ensuring they have a modern data capability in order to make themselves successful. So yeah, that's in a nutshell what we do.
Yeah. And, I mean, digital transformation is a buzzword that I remember hearing many times over the past decade. And I'm sure that many companies have undergone more than one digital transformation journey as the technology has matured and changed and things have fallen out of favor and come in. And so, but I mean, in 2021, it's really a mature space. And clearly, there's a lot of companies that are still yet to undertake this journey or do it properly.
Yeah, absolutely. And now with COVID, it's more important than ever for them to have a digital strategy, a mobile strategy. They need to be able to reach their consumers through these digital platforms.
Yeah.
It's a must-have. It's a no-brainer.
So, Gerhard, you mentioned AWS and Azure and Google Cloud, and these, of course, are the three major platforms. And we hear about people going hybrid, going on-prem, going fully in the cloud, and obviously hybrid is a mixture of all of those things. So, where do you see most of your customers going these days? Is it a mixture of all of those things based on what it is they are trying to achieve, or do you see more people now migrating directly to the cloud? What's your view on that?
Yeah, a lot of the organizations out there are still very much on-prem just because they've got a lot of legacy, and this is where they started.
Yeah, and presumably they want to maintain, get the most out of their environment, and not everybody can afford to just get rid of old equipment and start anew. They want to maximize their investment.
That's true. However, I will say that most enterprises are now realizing that they have to go to the public cloud with everything being remote, everything being having a non-physical nature these days, with offices and buildings in the cities closing down and everything needing max scale with enormous amounts of data. And what they have is definitely not going to be enough for the future.
Yeah.
So whilst they want to leverage what they already have, going to the cloud is not an if, but a when.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, it's definitely the multi-cloud approach is what is winning out there in the market. Very few organizations are sticking to one of the hyperscalers only. Most of the organizations are choosing at least two of the three hyperscalers, two of AWS, Azure, and GCP, and some are using all three.
Yeah. Well, it makes sense to have redundancy. I mean, why put all your eggs in one cloudy basket? I've got a friend, in fact, a family relative who bought themselves an SSD, a brand name expensive SSD, and it just failed. And luckily they had it all backed up to Dropbox. But if you were just going to rely upon SSD because it's indestructible, and if it falls on the floor, it's not going to break like a regular hard disk, I mean, it would have been a rude awakening. So it's no doubt, no surprise that companies are choosing to have the same sort of redundancy and backup.
Yeah, absolutely. And also there's a term out there called polycloud as well. So multi-cloud is having the same thing in two different clouds, whereas polycloud is using one cloud for data and using the other cloud for something else, just because this cloud is better at this and this cloud is better at that. So yeah, one use is multi-cloud, running the same thing on two different clouds, and the other one is running this in that cloud and that in this cloud, which is
it's another sign of how mature the environment is, that you can do that, and you can do it so sort of seamlessly and smoothly and efficiently, and companies can trust it and it works.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, can you please tell us about some of the clients that you work with in Australia and around the world? I can see that Contino claims over 500 successful transformation projects under its belt.
Yeah. Whilst I can't remember them all off the top of my head, I can definitely mention a few.
Sure, sure, sure.
Very proud of all of our engagements and all the customers that we've worked with. We've worked with customers such as NAB, National Australia Bank, Transport for New South Wales, Jetstar, Medibank. Globally, we've worked with brands like Adidas, Barclays Bank, LG, Allianz, Vodafone, just to mention a few.
Yeah, yeah. And also, I know you've got over 450 global employees. You have a global engineering team of 250 people. So can you tell us about some of your people and the people that you're looking for in the global marketplace to join the Contino team?
Yeah, it's actually probably gone up since those numbers were last published on the website. We're actually closer to 500 people. And I would say close to about probably 80% of our workforce is tech. So I'd say 400 out of the 500 would fit into that category. What we look for, so as consultants, we really have to have an open mindset. Because every customer has a different challenge and every customer wants to solve their problem in a slightly different way. So when we look for engineers, we look for engineers that are open to learning and open to working on different tech stacks in different environments. So they might be an AWS expert, but they're keen to learn Google Cloud, or vice versa. Similarly, when we hire cloud specialists, no longer do we hire the cloud specialists that are very narrow in their skill. These days, there's a whole bunch of automation and software skills that come with being a cloud engineer, because now everything's moved from infrastructure to infrastructure as code. Manual deployments to automated deployments, manual testing to automated testing. Everything is being automated. The infrastructure is being automated. So in order to be able to achieve this automation, you need to have some coding ability. So we're very much looking for these cross-functional, multi-skilled individuals that have a bit of cloud, a bit of software, a bit of DevOps, security, but also have an open mindset to continuously pick up new technologies. So that's sort of what we look for.
Yeah, well, it's like being an all-rounder. I mean, it makes sense to want to upskill and to broaden your skill set. And you never know which one of these clouds is going to be the one that your future client wants to work with. And it's just, it's a good thing for all of those workers to be skilled. And I'm sure some of them will say to you, hey, can you send us to training courses so that we can quickly upskill on these particular skill sets?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's making our employees more valuable in the market by being multi-skilled.
Yeah.
And also, by the way, when we hire, they don't have to be multi-skilled when we hire them. They could be in their specialty lane as long as they're open to becoming multi-skilled. Because we have lots of learning and development programs within Contino to enable that. We give everybody a $5,000 learning and development budget. We give people 5 days of additional annual leave so they can use that learning budget. So we have communities around all the clouds, various different software languages, DevOps practices, and modern engineering practices. So anybody can join any one of these communities, and they're going to get help by the other Contino employees. Our business is going to back their upskilling. Making our people more skilled can only be good for us, and can only be good for our customers too.
Absolutely. Now, very recently, Contino released research on the top 10 reasons why technologists join or leave an organization. So I'll link to that research in the article that this video will be embedded in. But can you please give us a summary of that research?
Yeah, so we surveyed about 180 Australians, all of which were technologists. That was the criteria for them to do this report. It's quite good because in the past, there's been lots of reports out there, but it's for the whole community. This is very specific to just technologists, right? Who are driven by different things than, let's say, an accountant or a lawyer. Within the report, what was found is that the number one reason for technologists wanting to join an organization was working with modern tech. They want to do interesting work, right? So you could have the best culture in the world, you could have all your best benefits, But if you're working in legacy, on-prem, using monolithic architectures, slow security processes, that is not enticing to engineers. And that is the number one reason they will join an organization. So not only should you go to the cloud because it's beneficial, but it's going to make you more appealing to prospective tech talent, right? So that's number one. I thought I'd just highlight that.
Yeah, please.
Number two for joining, and I'm surprised people admitted it, but I think this is true, is the salary package, right?
Hey.
It's important. And whilst a lot of people say, oh, it's not all about the money, hey, money puts food on the table. It gives you that the lifestyle choices to make decisions.
Yeah.
So it came up number two in the must-haves when trying to attract talent, right? So I recommend companies out there, they benchmark, are they paying enough? Are they competitive? Because if they're not, they're going to be losing out on a lot of tech talent.
Yeah.
Third on the list, unsurprisingly, this has skyrocketed, is flexible working, flexibility. Now that people have had a taste for flexibility, people are demanding it. Yeah. It's a must-have. It's locked in. If your company doesn't offer flexibility, you're toast in the market. You will not be able to attract the technologists that you need. So those were the top three in the join category. There's a top 10 list. I recommend you download the report to get the full 10. The reasons for leaving were different, actually, which was quite interesting. Because when people join, they're looking at the tech, they're looking at the salary, they're looking at flexibility. But the reason for leaving was, number one was actually bad leadership. So people leave, managers. So it's quite, it was quite overwhelming because that was the result in every single demographic. So whether you're male, female, young, old, the number one reason for technologists leaving is bad leadership. So I encourage everyone to have strong leadership programs. When you're putting leaders in place, know the impact it can have. The number two reason is, no surprise either, it's company politics. People leave if there's a bad culture with politics and backstabbing and whatnot. And
that's linked to leadership as well. Because if it's bad leadership, you're going to have probably those sorts of problems. But sorry, keep going.
Absolutely. Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I completely agree. Yeah. I probably won't go into too much because I think everyone knows what politics is and whatnot. Number three, again, lack of flexibility. Yeah. So there's people, again, they've had a taste. I know someone that lives 2 hours away from their work, and now they're loving it. They're loving the fact that they don't have to commute. You try to take that away from that person, they will leave.
Yeah, that's 4 hours out of their life that would have been commuting.
4 hours of their life.
Yeah, every day.
And there are companies that are mandating people to come back X amount of times. And personally, I think the correct approach here is be flexible in your flexibility. What do I mean by that? Everybody has different needs and requirements, right? Some people want to be at home. Some people want an office, right? Some people love that interaction. Some people don't. You have to cater for both, right? You have to have team building events, offices available for those that want to come in, if you want to attract that type of talent. And you also have to have the culture and the setup and the online collaboration tools and the online cultural activities and things that you can participate in from a remote capacity to engage those employees. So I'll give you some examples. At Contino, we do things like Contino Olympics. We do online trivias, online debates. Actually, after this interview, we're running a cloud debate at Contino. So AWS versus GCP versus Azure, or online. Yeah. So that should be fun. So you have to cater for both. So I do recommend you read the report. The top 10 reasons for joining and leaving are both there. It's a great read.
Sure. And, the last thing you were talking about there was community, having that sense of community internally. I've heard of quite a few of the people that I know that have been involved in, online trivia events at the end of the day. And it's all a bit of fun. It's all about keeping everybody together, keeping everyone's spirits up. Which leads me to the next point about COVID. Obviously, everybody knows about the lockdowns we're going through at the moment and the renewed crisis. And, millions of knowledge workers are at home, whilst a lot of people also have to go and, be essential workers working in the midst of what is a dangerous environment. And clearly, flexible working, as we just spoke about, is becoming the norm rather than afterthought. So what other lessons has Contino learnt from the pandemic and that you've seen your customers and clients also learning above and beyond, being more flexible and having online trivia and those sorts of things?
Yeah, absolutely. I think for us personally is knowing that everyone in the business is different and everyone gets impacted differently by being locked down at home. While some people are thriving, other people are feeling quite depressed and not enjoying it. So having to have those regular touch points that are more booked in rather than necessarily before you could just go to the kitchen and just talk to someone or bump into someone and say, hey, everyone, let's go for lunch. And you really have to sort of structure time in to make sure you catch up with people, to make sure that everyone's being heard, everyone's being listened to. We're getting everyone's sentiments and feelings. And yeah, sometimes we're going to have to invest a little bit more time making sure that there are people are okay, that certain people that need a little bit more support than others are okay. So I think you can't paint the brush where everyone is impacted in the same way. Everyone's impacted differently. So about knowing your staff is so critical. If you don't know your staff, and again, it goes back to bad leadership, good leaders will know their team, will know how their team is going, will make sure that they're touching base. The other thing, lessons learned, are things that you just mentioned about having, making sure you keep up the social. Whilst we're at home and online, we're humans and we thrive off social interaction. So we have to plan social events, whether they be online. There's paid performers out there. You can Google it. There's people that are making a living out of entertaining people over Zoom. And yeah, sure, you can get a bit zoomed out every now and then, but that's why you can have like exercise activities or some fun physical activities, or try to make it complement those Zoom sessions with a Contino Olympics, for instance, that we do, or some walking meetings and things like that can try to help. When it comes to working from home from a technology standpoint, I think the good news is that Contino was already set up for online collaboration before the pandemic. So for us, the transition was a little bit more seamless than others. But I think there's a lot of lessons learned for those that didn't have those online collaboration tools, of how important they are and like why it's so necessary. But I will say, even in Contino, we've seen the rise of the use of these collaboration tools. So whilst we had them, now we're maximizing them and extending upon them. And yeah.
And look, in my little contribution to the world of comedy, I was going to say, or I was thinking that if you're zoomed out, you can always go over to Teams. Which doesn't help very much at all, but you can say, I got the solution, we're going to go to Teams. But no, if you're with Zoom, stick with Zoom. Now, as we get towards the end of the interview, I wanted to ask you if you could please share the memory of your first computer.
Yeah, that's a good question. I think I was about 13 or 14 years old, and I was big on saving money. And anything, I get do chores, get money. I'll do my homework, get some money. And I had money saved, quite a bit of money saved as a 13, 14-year-old. Had around $2,500 just based on all of these little things that I did and money that I stored from my parents. And I actually used that money to buy a desktop in my room I think it was from Harvey Norman. I think it was a Hewlett-Packard. So that was my first computer. It's probably worthless now, but it was good at the time, and I had a lot of fun with it, so it's good.
And what is a little bit of your own history in the world of tech?
I studied law, not tech, actually. I was going to be a lawyer, and I realized how boring it was. I just watched all the TV shows and I thought how cool it was. And then when you do a placement, you'll realize you're just you're an admin, you're someone's admin.
Yeah.
And I really like technology. I used to build my own websites and whatnot. So I got into technology recruitment, specifically technology, but I had a legal background. So that really helped me in a number of things from a HR side and a whole bunch of different things within the space. So, but I knew very quickly that I wanted to work for technology companies. So I've been working in the technology space for the last 10 years or so. And I love it. I would never go anywhere else. I've got my own AWS certificates. I can build websites. So whilst I look after the talent, I do love my technology.
And it's good to keep a technical hand in things. You can keep people honest and give them little puzzles and just understand what's going on much more than if you didn't have that background.
Oh yeah, 100%. You're a lot more credible when you're speaking to talent when you're well versed in the topics. I actually got I did an interview once and they're like, "Oh, are you the CTO?" And I was like, "No, I'm the talent person." So so I tricked an engineer. So
yeah, you're the CTO, the Chief Talent Officer.
That's correct. Yeah, that's a good one.
So how do you see Contino evolving over the next couple of years and the IT industry evolving through to, say, 2030?
Yeah, so 2030, that's a long time in technology. Every year things change so much. So for me to give you an accurate prediction, I'd have to be Nostradamus, but I'll do my best. I think robotics definitely going up, AI, the use of data, it's just going to be exponentially big. The experience that people can offer, whether it be from more virtual reality and AR and a whole bunch of different things that are all related to digital experiences and customer experiences. So it's all about us. It's all about the consumer, and they want to make it as exciting as possible with the power of tech. So cloud would be, everything would be cloud, almost with little bits left over on-prem, but I would be saying most things by that time would be on the cloud, because there's going to be so much more data that the amount of on-prem is just going to be dwarfed by the scale needed in 2030. So that's why if you haven't started on your cloud journey, now's the time.
And your thoughts on the next couple of years, where I guess we're still going to be taking very small steps towards that much more glorious future.
Yeah. So next couple of years, I think most companies will have a proper digital strategy within the next couple of years. And I know that's a little bit simplistic, but you'd be surprised how many don't have a proper digital strategy.
Yeah, even in 2021, with the 21 years into the 21st century, and people are still getting to grips with this, basically because the technology has moved so quickly, and people have come and gone, and mindsets have had to change, and we're still getting to grips with it.
Yeah, I think COVID has accelerated it, and now it's a no-brainer, and everyone's budget is being used there. So 2 years, everyone should be at a relatively advanced state in their digital strategy, unless they're just starting from fresh.
Sure.
But yeah, even the people that are starting fresh will probably be digital first. So yeah,
absolutely.
So and a lot more digital first businesses, I feel, 2 years, within the next 2 years.
Sorry, say that bit again. A lot more. What sort of businesses?
And a lot more businesses that have been born in this digital world will use a digital first approach.
Yeah. Digital native.
Digital native, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Exactly. So my second last question is simply to ask if you could please share some of the best advice you've received in life to help you get where you are today.
Oh, wow. That's a good one. I think it'll probably be my dad, who's now passed away. He always told me to just, money comes and goes, work is always there. You always got to think about your family. And I think now after going through COVID and all this transition, and I've been at home more, and I've been able to spend more time with my family. I've realized what I've probably lost a bit during the time that it was pre-COVID. So I'm actually I'm quite happy about the shift to work from home as a primary, because it does allow you to have that work-life balance, because you can only be so successful at work. You've got to be successful in life too. So that's it. Might not be a technical advice, but that's my personal advice. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, if that's the silver lining of the whole COVID crisis, people taking more attention to their families and not trying to, we hear the famous stories from the past 20 years of the rich and famous buying off their kids with presents, and then their children ending up with all these problems because their parents were never there for them. I mean, hopefully this is a generation that will never have to go through that, because their parents understood that and really were there for their kids, and not just because work forced them, but because that was an active choice that they made. So,
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And my father was not there a lot of the time, and it's his regret. He told me that. So, yeah.
That's right. Yeah. Well, again, we hear about that, but now this is the generation that can finally see it and finally do something about it.
Yeah, exactly.
And so it's good to see that. So what is your final message to iTWire viewers and readers, and to your current and future customers and partners?
Yeah. I guess with the cloud, if you can't beat them, join them. It's inevitable. You have to go into the cloud. It's happening. And from a talent point of view, you must be modern. You must take an innovative approach. And if you don't, you will not attract the top tech talent. It is the number one reason that they will join you. So don't evolve at your own loss. You must evolve if you want to be competitive.
Well, Gerhard Schweinitz, Head of Talent at Contino, thank you very much for taking the time to speak with us today. I hope we get to talk again in the future.
Yeah, likewise. Great to speak to you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.